Morning, everybody. Welcome to LifeHouse. My name is Ryan. We believe in a Father who loves us. And if you're in the room, I invite you to stand. We're going to sing this song with you and over you this morning. Well, sometimes on this journey, I get lost in my mistakes. What looks to me like weakness is a canvas for your strength. And my story isn't over. No, my story's just begun. And failure won't define me. That's what my Father does. And failure won't define me. That's what my Father does. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door. 'Cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house. Yeah. The rifle's not the end game. Oh, the journey's where you are. You never wanted perfect, you just wanted my heart. And the story isn't over if the story isn't good. Failures never final when the Father's in the room. I said, the failures never final when the Father's in the room. Oh, lay your burdens down. Oh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Oh, you're in the Father's house. The prodigals come home, helpless find hope. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Prison doors fling wide, the dead come to life. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Miracles take place, oh, the cynic will find faith. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Jericho walls are quaking, strongholds now are shaking. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. I said now love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Oh, lay your burdens down. Oh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Oh, you're in the Father's house. Oh, lay your burdens down. Oh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Yeah. Oh, you're in the Father's house.
Well, good morning, everybody. You all can have a seat. I want to welcome everybody here, and those of you online. My name is Matt, and I'm the lead pastor here at LifeHouse. And if you're new around here, we're so glad you're with us. Whenever I travel, especially on an airplane, and some of you heard me talk about this, something always goes wrong. I was on a trip with some other pastors, and I was coming back from Denver, and we get on this fairly small little plane, and we get out on the runway, and the pilot comes on. This is that dreaded thing. Ladies and gentlemen, coming. It's going to be a few minutes before we can take off because bad weather's in the area. And you know this, a few minutes in pilot language is like 18 hours, right? And he says, but we're not going anywhere. And so 20 minutes, 30 minutes passed, and I have a little bit of claustrophobia. Some of you identify with that. And that plane got smaller and smaller and smaller. And at the same time, about 15 minutes in, there was a couple next to me, 2 seats over, that had like 6 Tupperware containers they pulled out of their bag. Picture this. Lay it all on those little trays, and they open it up, and I am all for garlic and Parmesan, but I'm telling you, it felt like they had gallons of it, and the smell, and it got closer and closer, and I thought, I'm going to turn into the Incredible Hulk and rip this place apart and get off this airplane. I tell you that because I leaned into the aisle, and I looked forward to that space up front. You know the space up front? That wonderful looking place called first class that none of us can really afford. And I thought, I hate you people. That's what I thought. I'm not kidding. Because they're all comfy and they're getting drinks served and they're in the good life. And we're back here just suffering with garlic smelling people around us. Anyway, we sat there for 2.5 hours, finally got taken off, finally got home at 3 a.m, all that. I just tell you that because sometimes when you come to church, you can feel like there's first class people and there's coach people. There's first class people and there's economy people. I just want you to know, if you're visiting today, this is new to you. There's no first class and second class people at LifeHouse. There's just people that we need Jesus. We need hope. We need help. We need each other. We need to lean on something bigger than ourselves. And if you feel like in any way, I just want you to know you're surrounded by people that love you and care about you and want you here, and so do I. We're going to be here for about an hour today, guys. We're going to sing a couple more songs, and then I'm going to continue our series called The Games We Play. It's going to be a little challenging, but I think helpful, and we'll get you out of here and on your way. I'd love for you to stand up and sing our next song with us.
see us through.
Never alone in the desert.
You'll see us through.
Never alone in the fire.
You'll see us
Oh,
through.
yes, He will.
You'll see us
Oh,
through.
yes, He will.
You'll see us through.
Never alone in the water.
You'll see us through.
Never alone in the pressure.
You'll see us through.
Never alone in addiction.
You'll see us
Oh,
through.
yes, He will.
You'll see us
Oh,
through.
yes, He will.
You'll see us through.
And in all our anxiety, I know.
You'll see us through.
And in our darkest thoughts, I know Jesus will.
You'll see us through.
And in every circumstance, I know.
You'll see us
Oh, yes, He will. Oh, yes, He will. And if I know one thing, our God is a deliverer. And if I know one thing, our God is gonna see us through. If I know one thing, our God is a deliverer. And if I know one thing, our God is gonna see us. He'll see us through. No other king would need to watch my feet. Prepare a table for His enemies. Lay down His glory for the least of these. No other king would touch a leper's skin. Open His arms to let the outcast in. Respond with mercy in the face of sin. Jesus,
Thank you, Kayla, for leading us in that song. Thank you all for singing with us. You guys can take your seats. I love what Matt said earlier, how he said that there are not any first-class people in this room, that we're all in the same boat. I love that because that's so true. There are people in this room who have that are as broken as the next. I'm as broken as the next guy. But people who have accepted the gift that God has offered us of his love. We just sang how there's no greater love than what God offers. And there are just some broken people in this room who have accepted that gift and are on the path to being healed and to be made more like Jesus. And that's a really good thing. In fact, there are a whole bunch of people who are on that path, who've made that decision in this place, in this room, online, in this building. And not only are on that path, but they're on the path of then giving back, of being a broken person, accepting the love of Jesus, being healed, being made whole again, and then sharing that love with other people. Hundreds of people who serve in this place. And they've just made that decision. They're not better than anybody else. They've just made that decision. I'm going to give back. And I want to tell you about one of those people this morning. I want to tell you about Candy Lammers. This is Candy right there with her husband Bill, her 2 kids and grandkids. Yeah. And I'll tell you about Candy. She has been at LifeHouse since the beginning. LifeHouse started 18 years ago. She's been here since the beginning. She's been serving since the beginning as well. She served in a whole bunch of different areas over the years. But where she's at right now is in our middle school environment. In transit is what we call it. And she's a small group leader for that group of girls right there, 7th grade girls. Good to have you guys here. Yeah, give it up for them. But she's their small group leader. And in fact, she has been their small group leader for 6 years. So she started in Upstreet, which is for elementary kids in 1st grade, and has been with them ever since. And Candy said this. She said that weekly commitment, because, when you serve it's a commitment. The weekly commitment was hard for a little bit, but after about a month, she said, I would never not show up for my girls, and that has been a great change. But Ellie Zuber, who's our student director, had this to say about Candy. We'll go back to that picture in a second. Candy shows up every week ready to love and lead the girls in her small group. She connects with everyone and has built a fun and safe space for them to grow in their faith. So go backwards if you can, John. Yeah, so this is some of the girls. Some of the girls are there, but she has served faithfully so well over the years. And I want to tell you a cool story. One of the girls in her group, her name's Sophie, and Sophie made the decision last summer, a year ago, as a 6th grader, in coming to get baptized. And baptism is just a way for somebody to go public with their faith, and they get dunked in a tank of water, and Candy had the honor of being in the tank with Sophie. So if you can, go forward to that picture. This is a picture from last year. There's Sophie and Candy. And we asked Sophie, hey, what does Candy mean to you? Because obviously she means something to invite her into the baptism tank with her. And this is what Sophie wanted to say to Candy. Sophie said this: "You are an inspiration to all of us, and we strive to be like you someday. You listen to our problems, you have dinner with us, come to events, and laugh at our unfunny jokes." I love that. Sophie went on and she said, "You always know just the way to make us smile. Even with how busy you are, you always manage to make time for us." And Candy is busy. She owns her own construction management company, so she is in the thick of it, but she still makes time to show up for these girls. Sophie finished, she said, "Your teaching has made an impact on my life, and each week I look forward to seeing you because you make me happier. Thank you, Candy. You are our hero." So can we give it up for Candy and the way that she serves? So let's go to that picture. So these girls are bet, and Candy says this. She said she loves serving because she gets to see these girls grow in their faith, and that's why we do what we do around here. And if you're hearing Candy's story, and if any part at all resonates with you, if any part of that resonates with you, and if you are not serving right now, man, I want to invite you to do that. You can make such a difference in the lives of other people, and you can have your own faith grow as well There's just nothing like it to give back. And if LifeHouse, if you've been around, if this is your home, if this is your place, and even if it's not, you can hop in and serve. There are so many different areas to serve. And we have something really cool that'll help you get a taste for serving. It's called Backstage Pass. And Backstage Pass is a 1-hour behind-the-scenes tour of all of our environments. So you'll get to go into student world and kids world, and you'll see what guest services does, and you'll see what these guys in the production room do in this room. You'll get to tour all those things. It's a 1-hour next Sunday at 11 o'clock during second service. And listen, if you go to Backstage Pass, you're not locked into serving. We want that to be a step for you, just to explore and see what serving could be for you. There's no obligation to serve, but just come and check that out. I want to invite you to that next Sunday at 11 o'clock so you can make a difference in somebody's life perhaps and see your own faith grow as well. We're going to keep rolling with the rest of our service now. I'm going to turn things back over to our lead pastor, Matt Braun.
Hey everybody, Andrew Stanley here. We're playing some more games. We're out here letting everyday people challenge pros. Today's game is one of everybody's favorites, golf. We're gonna see how this goes. All right, I'm here with our golf pro for today, Alexis Belton. Alexis, how you doing?
Doing well.
What we're doing is a long drive competition and an accuracy competition. We are gonna level the playing field a little bit and make you guys compete with these foam balls.
Oh, wow. With the wind, it could actually affect me a little bit.
Okay, it might be an advantage to the common folks.
Yes.
What's your golf experience level?
I took a PE class in college.
Oh, you almost hit the monument. And as usual, yes. Congratulations. You can put that with your other trophies. Oof, it sounded good. I don't know if we're gonna need to measure. I'm sorry that we have infant-sized medals. Maybe take some more PE classes, come back and see us again. What's your golf experience level?
I've been to Topgolf twice.
That should do it.
Ooh.
Straight. And it looks like that's gonna be pretty much right in the circle. We have another medal for Alexis. What do you think went wrong with the accuracy?
You know, I didn't check the wind.
And they don't have wind at Topgolf, so
Yeah.
it would make sense. And
Woo! Oh, that was better. What?
and
She's cheating.
not quite as straight.
This was not accuracy.
This is not accuracy. She plays the game that is given to her. Congratulations. Okay, so we're here with a real fierce challenger now. We have Brooks, who is not a pro, but high school champion. Brooks, how do you feel about our competitions we have set up?
I mean, we got a real pro here, but I'm here to show my skills.
Oh, that looks good.
Saucy.
Oh,
Starting to get weighed down.
you hit it right between those adolescents. That was beautiful. Brooks is further, but I can't
We
tell.
might have to check.
All right, I'm gonna do the measurer. 1, 2, 3. Should I count the whole time? Thank you guys for putting up with us. I'm pretty sure they made me do this just to make fun of me. Brooks is the winner. 239 to 274. Congratulations, Brooks. Does this look cool? Does that look cool?
I love that, but was anybody else like nervous how they're cranking out the driver with people out there playing Frisbee and who's gonna get killed in that? Hey, welcome again, everybody. I'm Matt, if we haven't met or you just walked in the door. Last week, Andy, our video teaching pastor who shows up around here on video once in a while, kicked off this series called The Games People Play or The Games We Play. And I'm just telling you, if you missed last week's message, you should go online and watch it. In fact, I would beg you to go online and watch it. I watched it and listened to it 3 different times, and every time I thought, that's just brilliant. Now, last week, Andy told you that he's not competitive. It's not easy for him to slip into, I've got to win, I got to win, I got to win. If you know me, or been around me at any amount of time, you know that I am overly competitive as a human being in about every area of my life. Now, the truth is, as I've gotten a little older and I can't win at things like I used to, it's tampering down just a little bit, but still, I am overly competitive. When my kids are like 3 years old, a good dad lets their kids win. I never let my kid win at anything. I'm like, I'm going to dominate dominate, and now my kids just push me around, so that's true. I mentioned earlier in the service that I was out west with some friends, pastor friends. We were fishing together. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Usually when I go out there, I like to brag that I catch more fish than anybody else because I'm overly competitive, and we're there fishing for 3 days. First day, nothing. Second day, nothing. Third day, 2 stinking fish. And I'm watching my friends reel these trout in. We're fly fishing. And I literally thought to myself, if I could sabotage their lines and their lures and their bait, I totally would, because I fully believe in the theology of if you're not cheating, you're not trying. That's kind of my own personal motto. And it's just hard for me not to win at things. The whole idea of we're going to give everybody a trophy, quite honestly, drives me nuts. Anybody else get a little freaked out with everybody gets a trophy? And that's all good. And if you're competitive, I'm glad you're here. And if you're not, same. But in this series, the games we play, we're talking about an area that it's dangerous to be too competitive or really competitive at all. And it's the area of relationships. And last week, you were introduced to this idea, if you were here, and again, if you weren't, you should go back and watch, that in relationships, a game that requires a loser is a game nobody wins. As much as we love to win in relationships, when somebody loses, everybody loses. And in the same way, in relationships, when someone wins, everybody loses. And you've seen this because it causes a fracture. It causes a gap. It causes distance at work. When you win and other people don't relationally, it's okay to sell more or get more done, but relationally, there's a gap. You have friends that when you win the argument, or you put them in their place, or you just are right and you make sure they know they're wrong, it creates distance. You know that with your kids. You know that with your adult kids. When a partner becomes an opponent, the relationship is not as healthy as it should be, because then we're critical and we're putting people down, we're elevating ourselves, and the gaps just appear. And it's so easy for us to do that. In fact, it's really easy for almost all of us in our relationships to play the blame game. And the blame game, the person that does this believes that outcomes, well, if they're good or bad, well, especially if they're bad, it's just not my fault. It's just not my fault. It's just not my fault. And you probably know somebody, no elbows, no pointing, no winking at anybody next to you right now. You know someone when it comes to a negative outcome, their motto is, it's not my fault. And people like me that can talk well and kind of can say what we think really fast, we can talk our way out of things of why it's not our fault. I mean, you may still be thinking of something, and I've gone through 4 paragraphs verbally about why it's not my fault, it's not my fault. And what I do is, well, I don't take responsibility for what is my fault. And here's what's so interesting about the blame game that we're going to talk about today. It can literally feel like you're winning in the moment. And at the end or in the middle, you're losing. Maybe you lose something permanently, or maybe you lose intimacy, or maybe you lose respect or influence along the way. And what we're going to look at today is an Old Testament figure, a person from the ancient Hebrew scriptures that experienced this head on. And we're going to look at his failure. And that Old Testament character in the blame game, his name is Moses. You may have heard of him. If you're older, Moses is Charlton Heston. If you're younger, it's Christian Bale, whoever Nick plays in the Exodus story of Moses. And this is what we know about Moses. He was called by God to lead God's people out of Egypt. And maybe some of you are super familiar with that story. Maybe this is brand new for some of you. I'm glad all of you are here. But Moses leads God's people out of Egypt through the Red Sea. It parts, and he leads them to a place called Mount Sinai, where they're given the law. And it's so interesting because Moses wrote pretty much most of the first 5 books of the Old Testament. It's called the Torah. It's called the Pentateuch, just for a little biblical, rhetoric, if you want to take that home with you. And Moses was the primary writer of those, which means for today, you got to remember this, Moses documents his own story. In fact, I'm just going to read 3 different times that Moses documents himself blaming other people for his problems. It's in the book of Deuteronomy. It's in the first 5 books of the Old Testament towards the beginning. And Moses says this, because of you, he's talking to the Israelite people, all of these thousands and hundreds of thousands and maybe millions of people that are following him, through the wilderness. Because of you, the Lord became angry with me. God's mad at me because it's your fault. And then just a couple chapters later, Moses says, because of you, God would not listen to me. You all hung me out to dry, and now God doesn't listen to what I say. He's really feeling sorry for himself. We'll come back to that in just a second. And then the very next chapter, it says, because of you, blame, 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 he solemnly swore that I would not cross the Jordan and enter the good land, which we'll talk about this in a second. When he writes this, literally, they're on the verge of crossing over to this place called the Promised Land, the land that would become Israel, the land that was called flowing with milk and honey. It was so good and prosperous and rich. And he's not going to get to go in, and he says it's all you all's fault. Now, the context, what we're going to look at today, is two different events. One early in the journey of the Israelites when they just get out of Egypt and they're just starting to walk through the desert, and one at the end of their journey. The first one is Exodus chapter 17. Now, context, for those of this is new, Israel had been slaves in Egypt for hundreds and hundreds of years. And when they got set free, they didn't know who they were. They didn't have a national identity. They didn't know how to live as free people. They didn't know how to relate to each other. They didn't know how to relate to God. And so when Moses goes up to Mount Sinai, this famous, event that happened, he interacts with God and he gets the law. And the law is simply this: it's for my people and a way for you to live, to interact with each other and to interact with me. That's the best on this planet. And I'm going to need you, God would say over and over, to trust me. As we talk through this is all about, would you trust me with your life? And then the Israelites, who could have been in the Promised Land in a matter of weeks or maybe months, they wander in the desert for 40 years because God is trying to get in their minds and in their hearts what it means to trust him. And that starts in Exodus 17. And then we find a real similar event that happens in Numbers 20. And what happens in both of these stories involves the Israelites wandering in the desert, and they don't have water. Now, here's what's interesting about water. You can be hungry. That can be a problem. When you do not have enough hydration, whether you've hiked through the mountains, you're in a place where you haven't hydrated, you can get into real trouble really fast. And the Israelites in both these places, one at the beginning of the journey and one 40 years later, they're super thirsty. And they need water. And so in Exodus chapter 17, well, God says, as the Israelites are grumbling and complaining, why didn't we stay in Egypt and just be slaves? There's plenty of water along the way. In Exodus chapter 17, God says, Moses, I want you to go to a rock and take your staff. And the staff was really important to Moses. There was miracles around this staff. And I want you to smack that rock. This is early in their journey. And when you smack it, water is going to flow out of it. And sure enough, Moses smacks the rock and water flows out of it. And here's what I know, if this is new to you, if you're not sure about this whole God thing, especially when it comes to like supernatural things, it can seem like weird. I get that. But this is what Moses documented, and thousands and hundreds of thousands of people witnessed, and water flowed. And people had their fill, and they fed their animals and watered their animals. That was early in their journey. 40 plus years later in Numbers chapter 20, it's the same exact thing, but it's the end of their journey. And this is what Moses tells us, or God says to Moses. He says, you remember, there's not enough water. People are thirsty. There's hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people that need hydration. He says, you and Aaron is Moses' older brother. They're kind of like the leaders of all these Israelites. You and Aaron must take the staff and assemble the entire community. I want you to get everybody together because I'm going to show off who I am and how much I care about all of them. And as the people watch, speak to the rock. This is really important. I don't want you to smack the rock this time. I just want you to speak to it, which again is a little weird over there, and it will pour out its water. The first time, 40, 50 years earlier, it was hit the rock. Now I want you to speak to the rock. And I love what Moses writes about himself. Remember, he's writing this, documenting his own life. And he says, so Moses, talking about himself in the third person, did as he was told. Now pause for just a minute. I think this is interesting. Moses writes this, and he's super generous to himself. Like, I did what God said, and we, after reading what we're about to read, is like, kinda, because you know, when you tell your own story, you tend to make it look a little bit shinier than maybe sometimes it was. Remember, Moses is writing this. So, Moses, I want you to talk to that rock. I'll provide water. That's what God says. And so, Moses, took the staff from the place where it was kept before the Lord, and then he and Aaron summoned the people to come and gather at the rock. So far, so good. Moses is learning. I know if I do what God says, it always points me in the best direction of my life. And remember, Moses is supposed to speak to this rock. And I have to say this. If you're thinking that's just weird, why would God make you talk to a rock? I need you to know that there's some things about our faith that are weird. There's some things that we're called to do and called to be, called not to do and not be in our lives that are weird, and sometimes they're not, well, natural. They don't come easy to us. We're not instinctively bent that way, and sometimes you go, okay, God, I think this is a weird thing, but I'm gonna follow you anyway. And you may be here in a place where whatever you think God's calling to you feels kind of weird, but you've read it and you've experienced it. Maybe wise people have encouraged you to take a certain step, and it just feels like not natural. Moses in this moment would say, hey, I wish in this next moment I would have listened to this weird thing and paid attention to God's direction in my life. Moses, he calls the people together. This is what he does. He says, listen, you rebels. And it doesn't seem like a big deal, but there's something going on underneath the surface of him kind of starting to chastise the people and rebuke them. He shouted at them, must we bring you water from this rock? Again, it's simple, but you can feel something bubbling up. Now, just to track with this is Numbers chapter 20. I would love for you to read this at home. If you don't, I get it. But I think it's interesting reading. It's helpful. I mean, there's insight to it. And there's some things going on in this. See, God, he speaks. And he says, I want you to speak to the rock, not strike the rock. It's so subtle, it's so simple, but it's a really important distinction. I don't want you to strike it. I want you to speak at it. And so what Moses does, instead of speak to the rock, well, he speaks to the people, and he calls them all rebels. There's something bubbling up in Moses' life, and I don't know if it's too many years in the desert, if he's weary from people's grumbling, things aren't going exactly the way he wished, but he starts to rebuke him. That was not his marching orders from his heavenly Father. And there's an insight to this, that Moses starts to see the people as the problem. And anytime that you start to see them as the problem, as opposed to you being part of the solution, things go in a really difficult direction. The easy solution is, Moses, just go there and speak to the rock. I know it seems weird. I know you're frustrated with everybody. Go speak to the rock. It's not that hard. And then he says this other thing. He says, must we bring the water to you? And this is so interesting that you just passed by. What do you mean, Moses, that you would bring the water? When in the world have you ever provided anything out of your own hand for these people? The manna, the bread that fell from heaven, which is another amazing, weird, great thing that has fed them for years and years and years. You didn't cause that to happen. There's water coming out of that rock. Do you think you caused that? Are you taking credit for that? Do you think you're so good? And see, it's this thing that dwells up in all of us. Moses, your eyes are on the wrong thing, the wrong focus. Then we're told, back to our story, then Moses raised his hands. Pay attention. He struck the rock. He ignored what God told him to do, to speak to the rock. And he just got frustrated, and he struck the rock with his staff. Okay, God told me one thing. I'm going to do my own thing because I just think I know better in this moment, and I got some stuff bubbling up inside of me. He struck the rock twice with the staff, and the water gushed out. And Moses decides to do his thing instead of God's thing. And so just to keep tracking this, when we go back to Numbers 20 and what we've been talking about, Moses, he strikes the rock. He doesn't speak to it. He's supposed to speak to this. And this was a huge detail. And when he does this, he misses something really important. And it has to do with God's character. That in the middle of this, and this is really important for you, and this is really important for me, God still provides. This is a big deal. Those people needed hydration. They needed water. Moses did not listen. And God said, listen, even though you're disobedient, I'm still going to provide for my people. And you are sitting around lots of people in this room, maybe online, that can say, yep, there were days that I didn't listen. There were days that I went the wrong direction. There were days that I didn't believe what I should have believed, or love the way I should have loved, or obey the way I should have loved, and God still showed up and he provided it. The easiest way to see that is all of us who have gone astray in our lives and still struggle and stumble are still breathing and eating and drinking and alive because God provides for us. Now, here's where we get tripped up sometimes, especially in the modern church. God provides for Moses and the people in light of his disobedience or him not listening, but there is consequence to it for Moses. I'm going to provide, but there's still going to always be some kind of consequence, and you've experienced this along the way. Back to our story. It said, but the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, his older brother, they led together, because you did not trust me. And this is such a powerful thing. Moses, why didn't you trust me? You remember when I split the Red Sea? You remember when I rescued you and I've led you and I've fed you? You didn't trust me enough to demonstrate my holiness to the people of Israel. Moses, I wanted you to trust me because I'm trying to show my people who I am through you and what they mean to me, and that they can trust me when they listen to me. And that's what God wants for you. And this may be a brand new thought if this is new, this faith thing to you, that God doesn't give you direction and sometimes restriction because he's punishing you. He's giving that to you because he cares about you and he knows his way is better than our way. And some of you right now, God's going, come on, just trust me, just trust me, just trust me. And you've been on the other side of it when you did your own thing and I did my own thing. I could write a book on when Matt Braun did his own thing and there were consequences. And it wasn't even punishment, there was just consequences. It was a result of not listening, going the way I should have. Now, here's what's interesting for me and for you. When there's consequences, almost all the time, we look for someone else to blame. It's like a safety mechanism for them. I'm in trouble. I got to figure out who's can take the rap or who I can blame so I can justify. And here's what's interesting. There's consequences, not just from Moses, but there's also consequences for Aaron, his older brother. The Lord also said to Moses and Aaron, because you did not trust me enough to demonstrate my holiness to the people of Israel. And this is a hard thing because some of you would say, yeah, this is true. Because I had a father once upon a time that went his own way and did his own thing, and I suffered his consequences, and I still am. Or a spouse that I'm suffering their consequence, but it's a whole lot harder to go, you know, there's some people in my life that are suffering my consequence is in this. Aaron, Moses, there's some consequences. You were the leader, and Aaron, you didn't actually do this thing, but you didn't stop him either. You didn't interfere, you didn't correct him, so there's just some consequences, and here's the consequence. You, both of you, will not lead the people into the land I'm giving them. And this seems super hard, and maybe to pacify myself, I'm just sure when Moses and Aaron entered into the physical presence of their heavenly Father, it was way better than the promised land. But this is a land that they had been waiting on for a very long time. And in this moment, you just pause and go, what's the point of the story? The point is certainly, listen, when you mess up, when you stumble, when you sin, own up. Own up. That's like the easy, low-hanging fruit. Own up. And I know in our world it's really hard for many of us just to own up, but there's a much deeper, there's a much more important point to what's going on here. That not only should you own up, you should take responsibility in messing up. And owning up's hard enough, but taking responsibility is the most difficult part of what's healthy in all of our lives from 3,000 years ago to this very day. Because again, our natural go-to is, I'm gonna blame you. I'm gonna blame our country. I'm gonna blame our world. I'm gonna blame our government. I'm gonna blame my dad. I'm gonna blame my wife. And we always have a choice in what we do with this. And the two choices revolve around this idea of assigning and assuming. See, when you assign, I go, okay, I see what's gone wrong. I'm gonna assign responsibility to one of you or somebody in my life, and I'm gonna blame them. Or the other thing is I'm gonna assume responsibility. And in this moment, Moses lost his cool, he lost his focus. He ultimately lost his trust in God when it wasn't going well, and he assigned responsibility to all the people. I mean, can you imagine being the 20-year-old kid that's trying to figure this out, and you're looking at this wise old leader that's supposed to be close to God, and he's blaming you for the problem? And the 20-year-old kid in the group is going, I don't even know what's going on. I'm 20 trying to figure this out. Moses, we're looking to you. And Moses is like, no, it's all your fault. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. He decides to lean in and assign responsibility to people that, in this moment at least, we're not to blame. You've done this. You've had it done to you along the way. On my way back from Montana on Friday, I'm waiting in the airplane. I'm talking a lot about that trip because it's recent for me, so bear with me. And I decided to flip on the whole little screen thing they give you. Remember the Titans, which is an incredible movie if you watched it. It's about two groups of young men in the South in Virginia, I believe, when integration was happening around a football team. And in the movie, there's two main characters along with Denzel Washington, and I'd just like to tell you Denzel is maybe the greatest actor of all time. Anyway, there is Julius Campbell and there's Gary Batir, these two athletes. They're both leaders. One is black and one is white. Gary is the team captain, and he is getting on Julius for not pulling his weight, for being selfish, for setting a bad example, and he's just ripping into him. And Julius, who has obviously been in a terrible, hard spot in the world he grew up in, after being accused of a bad attitude, he just simply looks at Gary and says, attitude reflects leadership. Captain. Isn't that true? I got a bad attitude, that's fine, but attitude reflects leadership. In the story of Moses, it's like somebody needs to say, Moses, attitude reflects leadership. And he was a great leader, and Moses did some great things. I don't want to be too hard on him. But he's got some attitude issues along the way. When he stands up and says, all you rebel people, you're so awful and so bad, he puts himself in the place of moral superiority. Listen, you rebels. Listen, you pagans, you unfaithful people. I'm the hero. I'm the one that's got this right. It's all your fault. And if you've ever experienced a church that has made you feel that way, you just need to know that's not the way church is supposed to be. And when people do that, like I'm the superior one, then I can just grumble about you and I can complain about you. And we see this in our country all the time. Pull out a church into a bigger picture. We point to groups of people and go, oh, they're the problem. They're the problem. They're the problem. They voted that way. They think that way. They're the problem. And we're the superior ones. Grumble, 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 grumble. We got problems, but it's all your fault. Brene Brown, who writes some incredible things on guilt and shame and blame. Brene says blame is simply the discharging of discomfort and pain. I'm blaming you because I don't want to feel bad about me. I'm blaming you because I don't want to feel icky for what I've done, or at least what I was a part of. I am gonna assign you blame so it is not assigned to me. And you've seen this. We power up. We make our point. We make sure we're right. And everyone else around us is wrong, so we don't have to carry the load. And again, relationally, work-wise, church-wise, in your marriage, it creates a gap because no one wants to do life with someone that feels morally superior to them. The other thing that happens, back to our little chart around this idea of moral superiority is, I know the problem and it's you. And here's always the potential, is that when there's a problem in a workplace, there's always a potential to go, listen, I gotta own some of this. I gotta take responsibility of it. Let's go shoulder to shoulder and work this out. I think there's not a relationship in the world that can't be saved, including marriage relationships, when a person and another person go, let's go shoulder to shoulder. Let's own it all together and let's work towards a solution. And right now, for some of you, I know that the thought is, there's no way. I'm in a situation, I don't know what your situation is. There's no way we can figure this out, work it out, and be good again. I just don't think that's true, especially when Jesus is in is in the middle of it. The second thing around this blame game is this idea of a victim mentality. See, I feel morally superior sometimes, but we see this in our country, in our world, in our families. I'm the victim. And Moses kind of feels like the big victim. I've been the hero, and now I'm the big, I'm getting the blame for everything they've done wrong. They get to go in the promised land, and I don't get to go into the promised land. And any time that we decide to be a victim, we just stick ourselves right in a place we can't move forward. And Moses, he just assigns. He assigns guilt and blame to everybody else. But if he in this moment would just take an ownership, you've got to ask the question, would God have gone, okay, let's move you into the promised land? I'm not sure that would happen, but instead it just feels like he gets, dealt with more bitterness. And I want you to know this, blaming, being a place where I'm a victim or morally superior, that's just what weak people do. And if you're a leader, and almost everybody in this place and online is a leader in your family or a business or a team or someplace, you're not a great leader when you do this. And people are hoping that we as followers of Jesus would drop all this and lead the way in following God with everything we have. And just back to Brené's quote one more time, that blame is simply the discharging of discomfort and pain. And this is what stops our growth, is when we blame. It restricts us. There's this really famous doctor, you can check him out, Dr. Robert Anthony, says, when you blame others, you give up your power to change. And it makes total sense. If it's your fault, I don't have to do anything about me. If it's your fault or the circumstances or my family of origin or our country or my church or my dad, I don't have to change because it's their problem. More significantly, what we're saying is we don't really need Jesus, because Jesus came into our world to meet us in our disrepair and our dysfunction and our sin and make us brand new. But if I blame everyone else, what I'm saying is, God, you go work on them. You don't have to work on me. It's weird. It leads to not relying on the one who gave everything for us. And if you're new, just so you know, Jesus gave everything for you on the cross. So when we think about this, we think about consequence, we think about who's responsible for the consequence, we assign blame or we assume responsibility. And when we assign blame to everyone else, to circumstance, people, to family, and maybe right now, I'd love for you to just pause. Because you didn't come here just to have good thoughts and maybe feel better about life. I would love for you to think about someone in your family you've assigned blame to, or a boss that you've assigned blame to, or if it's something you watch on the news and it's those people. I would love for you to think about assuming responsibility and maybe saying, God, I want to change and let you change me. But not just me, I want you to use me to change my circumstances. Okay, I came from a family that was dysfunctional, but I got kids now, and I don't want them to be dysfunctional. So I'm gonna accept responsibility for my dysfunction so I change their future. I got grandkids, and I want the next generation to be different than the generation I was raised up in. Some of you, you've been neck deep in watching addiction all around you. And you've just decided, I've heard some of your stories, I'm not going there anymore. And I'm taking responsibility for me. It doesn't matter what my dad did, my family, I'm taking responsibility for me, and I am gonna change and let God, more importantly, change me. Because to be quite honest, the blame game, it makes your life worse in every category. It just does. Research shows, and you can look it up, that people that work in ploys that blame, statistically stay at jobs for a shorter amount of time, have less pay increases, have less job satisfaction, and have less joy in what they do. They blame. Same with marriage. You can predict, statistically, the Gottman research has done studies on this. If you want to look this up when you get home, people that decide to blame their spouses, there's a predictor of the percentage that will increase of divorce by going, it's his fault, it's all his fault, it's all her, and we justify, go, yeah, I got a few problems. You ever said that? I got a few problems, but really it's her fault. It's her fault. See, the blame game is people who blame things rarely change things. And I think you want to change things. I think you want to be different. And here's just the simple choice when it comes to this. You and I can blame, which is so easy for me, or we can assume responsibility and change things. And here's the weird thing. You can assume responsibility for things that you didn't cause. And we see this all the time. People in our church work with your kids and your grandkids, and they didn't create some of the problems. They just decided, I'm going to assume some responsibility for these young people. I'm going to lean in, even though I didn't cause it, because I want things to be different. I want to be part of Jesus, changing their lives. In fact, you know this, maybe you don't. Your Savior decided to come and save you from the wreck that you and I made of our own lives. The antidote to this is simply to embrace your ability to assume responsibility. And this is a choice, whether it's your fault or not. And you might say, hey, I didn't do anything on this, and you may be right, but you still get to go, I'm gonna take some responsibility. It's how the world changes, how families change, communities change. The church changed. In fact, some of you were here a long time ago when we started this place. And you're like, I didn't cause the church mess in our world, but I'm gonna be part of solving it. So my question to you is, what's going on, or what's going wrong in your world? And maybe you caused it, and maybe you didn't. But would you simply say, I'm gonna accept some responsibility to change this? When I was out in Montana, the real purpose I was there is I was leading a group of 18 pastors from across our country in a 4-day thing where we rest, we pour into each other. I kind of led the guys. So thanks for letting me go to that, because it's helping other guys do what I do for a really long time. And I was having a conversation with a pastor there that I didn't know, and I was getting to know him, and I said, hey, tell me your story. And I thought about this story. And he told me, yeah, 10 years ago, my wife died of cancer. And here's the weird thing that people that do what I do think, and it's not necessarily the right way to think, but it's true. I'm giving my life to this. God, are you paying attention to what I'm doing for you? And I'm not saying that's a good way to think. It's just the way sometimes you think when you're giving your life away. Are you paying attention, God? And when he said that, I thought, man, that had to have been so hard. You're leading, you started a church, you're giving everything you have. Then you find out your wife has cancer, and you know all the terrible things that go along with having cancer. And then you lose her, and you're left with children. At the time, they weren't adult children, now they are. And you're a dad running a church, raising 4 kids. I thought, man, that's a challenge. He said, then I got remarried 3 years ago, and I'm like, that is so cool. He said, yeah, we're trying, he's my age, or he's almost my age, he's 50, and we're trying to adopt a baby, to which I said, dude, you're crazy, you're 50, right? He said, no, we just want to do that. We just want to give our lives away to a child that needs some parents. We think we could love well. I'll be 70 when she or he graduates, we can do that. And literally, not 3 hours later, he let the whole group know there is a baby being born, and we think they're going to give it to us. And it was like high five. 18 pastors that are, adult men acting like middle school boys, hugging and slapping hands like, yes. And at the end of the day, he walks in. You could just see his countenance. This is just in one day. Remember, he lost his wife to cancer. He goes, yeah, somebody else got the baby. And then he said, but you know what? I'm trusting God that she's in exactly the right place with who she should be with. And when and if we get a baby to adopt, we'll be the exact right person for that child. And I thought, there it is. There it is. You have every right to be angry, frustrated, bitter, But instead, you're not blaming. You're just solving the problem of kids needing parents and how to be healthy and whole in this. And I thought, that's the kind of person I want to be. And here's the beautiful part, and he just kind of alluded to this as we were talking in the first part of his story. He said, I just wouldn't be here if Jesus hadn't come and walked me through it. Because without Jesus, I'd be all about the blame and not about the change, but I'm changing my world. Here's what I love about the Apostle Paul, thousands of years later after the whole Moses rock thing. The Apostle Paul in the book of Corinthians, which is a letter to a little church in Corinth, this is what he writes about that whole incident of the Israelites in the desert. He said, they ate the same spiritual food and drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank from the spiritual rock, there it is, that accompanied them, and that rock was Christ. That rock was Jesus. You see, for some of us, we think there's no way. I can't take responsibility for the situation I'm in. I can't change it. I'm just going to complain and whine and blame. And Jesus says, no, with me, you can, with my spirit and my truth and my strength and my power. You don't have to go rogue. You don't have to be bitter. You don't have to tell your sob story to everybody that comes along. You don't have to tell everybody you're a victim. You can be a shining, beautiful thing in this world. And in the right circumstances, share your heartache and share your pain, but you don't have to be bitter in the middle of it. With Jesus, with his spirit, with his power, you can embrace your ability to assume responsibility. And I don't know where this lands for all of you. I know exactly where it lands for me right now. I'm not going to tell you where it lands for me right now, but I know where it does. And I want to lean into not blaming everybody else. I want to lean into the beauty and the love and the better path of following Jesus and taking responsibility, owning up, and then doing something about it with his power. So I'm encouraging you. The games we play, for you and I not to play the blame game. And if that means today you need to go and apologize or own up or confess or just let God change your heart, I'm inviting you to do it. It's the best path forward because it represents the kingdom of God. Let me pray for you. Heavenly Father, I'm grateful that we get to learn from Moses' mistakes. And our confession is we all have the same mistakes and sins in our life. Help us to be people that resist assigning blame to other people, but own responsibility in our own lives. Let us be the change agents of this world. And for the man or woman that's in the place, they're not even sure what you are, Jesus, or who you are, if you even exist, I pray that you'd reveal yourself to them and they would see the beauty of who you are. And for those of us that follow, let us follow with everything we have. It's in your precious name we pray, Lord. Amen. Thanks for being here today, guys. God bless. Have a good rest of your day.